Over the past few weeks, we've been receiving questions from viewers on our Facebook page about managing their money. Now, we've received quite a few questions from fresh graduates asking what are the best ways they can get a head start to be on track with their finances. So in our next story, we decided to do a makeover for our former intern, Nurul Ain Muhammad Yazid. We asked two senior licensed financial planners from the Financial Planning Association of Malaysia what tips can they offer Ain. And perhaps all fresh graduates who are in the early stages of their careers can learn a thing or two from this feature. Let's watch. So for today's financial makeover, we have Ain. Ain is actually a former intern for us, and we recently just hired her as a freelance assistant producer for Ringgit Cents Plus. Now, Ain is someone who is a fresh graduate, has a non-fixed income, and already has a few debts to settle. So we want to know how our licensed financial planners can actually help Ain in her financial makeover. So we have Rafiq and Rajan to help her and give her some of the best tips. We asked Ain for a breakdown of her monthly expenses. She expects to make almost 3,000 ringgit a month. She has two loans that she has to repay, a car loan and PTPTN student loan repayment, which will start soon. Her total monthly expenses are 2,074 ringgit. She's also planning to get married and wants to set aside 500 ringgit every month, with an additional 100 ringgit savings for other long-term goals like buying a house. The first advice Rajan Devadasan, CEO of RD Wealth Creations, has for Ain is to start a sole proprietorship instead of a company if she's going to work freelance. The cost of starting a sole proprietorship is much lower and less of a hassle than starting a company. Rajan adds that Ain should also look into setting up an emergency fund with an extra buffer compared to people with fixed income.
We all should have emergency buffer funds. But for those of you who are conventionally employed and you get a regular salary at the end of every month, then I would say that you need only between 3 and 6 months expenses tucked away for Bumiputras, maybe in ASB. For the rest of us, maybe in current account, savings accounts, fixed deposit. I would strongly suggest that Ain from the very beginning starts contributing a little bit of money to EPF.
As for Rafiq Hidayat, the managing director of Wealth Vantage Advisory, he says people who work in a big company without a fixed income will have a problem of establishing their credit score, where later on in life, if they want to apply for a bank loan, they need to show that they have a steady income. One way around that is to make sure that the accounting for their sole proprietorship is accurate and up to date. Rafiq also suggests that Ain lists out a proper budget and sticks to it.
You don't have a fixed income, but you will have fixed expenses. So try to create a budget that focuses more on your needs. Basically, your accommodation, your transportation, food, and maybe communication.
Rafiq also stressed the importance of having life and medical insurance for fresh graduates. Working on your own means you don't have medical coverage from a company. Thus, it's more important for you to go out and get a good hospitalization plan. As for life insurance, in case you die, you don't burden your family with the debts you owe.
If cost is an issue for you, you can always go for standalone medical cards, which is generally cheaper.
As for Ain's marriage plans, she plans to get married 3 years from now with a budget of 30,000 ringgit. She plans to share the wedding cost with her boyfriend equally, so she wants to save 500 ringgit a month. Both Rajan and Rafiq says Ain does not have to save 500 ringgit, as saving 250 ringgit a month will do. She should put the money in either a fixed deposit or bond funds, which will give steady returns.
So I would recommend that maybe she sets aside only 200 or 250 per month. She can save that in ASB, she can save that in a regular bank account and then build up to fixed deposits. Or because the wedding goal is only 3 years away, I believe she should not take any equity type risk. So she can still use unit trust, but I would probably recommend a bond fund of some sort.
As for her loans, Rafiq says Ain should start paying off her PTPTN loan as soon as possible and pay more so she's not burdened by the loan over time. As for her car loan, Rafiq says Ain should not have bought a car as she's spending 1/4 of her income on the car loan, fuel and toll. Instead, she should take public transportation. Rajan adds, as she has already bought one, she should keep it for as long as it is roadworthy before buying a new one.
I think what you may find particularly helpful is if you go out and you buy yourself a little notebook, something like this, and for the next 3 months, do the best that you can to actually track all of your expenses, everything that you spend, little or large, whether it's cash or credit cards or whatever else, and use that and match it against your budget.
Rafiq's final advice for Ain is to lower the 400 ringgit amount she plans to give to her parents monthly.
Taking into the fact that you're still living with them, I would actually maybe suggest that why don't you take on one of the monthly expenses of the household. Example, maybe either the electricity bill or the internet bill. It would still be about 150 to about 250 a month. So, which is slightly lower than what you are thinking of doing, but at the same time, it still fulfills your requirement of giving back to your parents.
In summary, fresh graduates should find ways to reduce their expenses and don't get into any debts like car loans until they can truly afford it. Emphasize in investing money instead of spending money.